It's another brutal day on Wall Street with the major averages all deeply in the red and the S&P 500 closing into bear market territory, down 9.51% today and 26.6% from the high just last month. And that is pretty brutal. And when stocks drop over 20% into a bear market, it signals their belief of an impending economic recession. And really, most of this damage occurred last night after President Trump gave what was a pretty confusing overall office speech that really needed to be clarified later to avoid many of the mistakes that he said. As well, President Trump and Senate Majority Leader McConnell stated that they didn't like the legislation created in the House by Speaker Pelosi. Now, both of these represent exactly what I talked about yesterday, as they are mistakes that are interpreted as negative by the markets, and the markets react very swiftly, brutally. Today, the Federal Reserve did act to provide a massive amount of liquidity to the lending markets and to the banks. And they put in a massive amount. I mean, this is huge. $1.5 trillion really shot in the arm to the financial system with the hope that this would ensure the financial markets wouldn't freeze up. Now, this is the second day in a row that they have added this type of liquidity. Maybe not this much, but a lot of liquidity. But just like when they cut interest rates last week, cheap money can't solve a healthcare crisis. And the financial markets reacted by initially rallying and then falling back down. And the most important numbers really that came out today came from WHO on the U.S. infections and deaths. Now, infections rose 291 to 987, and deaths rose 4 to 29. Now, the infections were higher than yesterday. The infections yesterday were 224, and the deaths they had yesterday as well were 6, so a little bit lower there. But compare this to other countries, and especially with Europe or Iran, and they look significantly better. It's not going to last because, as I've been saying for some time, we're just now getting a larger amount of testing done as the test kits have gone up, and we really don't know exactly how many people have been infected, and we really won't know until this weekend because it takes 3.5 to 5 days to get a result back. So the good news is that cities and states and private companies are not waiting for action from the federal government. They're moving forward. As an example, Seattle and San Francisco have banned large gatherings of over 1,000. And states like New York and California have declared a state of emergency. And of course, the NBA, the major MLB, and NHL have all postponed or suspended their seasons. Now, moreover, private firms are having their employees work from home over the next month. Now, all of these measures and actions will lead the federal effort and essentially are self-quarantining sections of the country and businesses. This will help, but it all takes time. And more precisely, it'll take about a month of this to get really some headway on the virus. For the economy, we're going to see a dramatic drop-off in activity over this time frame and likely longer. Meaning, at this point, we're probably going to have a negative quarter, and you really can't rule out a recession with a lot of layoffs in the transportation, hotel, leisure, and restaurant businesses, including energy. And don't forget about energy. As the fight between Saudi Arabia and Russia over OPEC cuts over the weekend, that was really the catalyst for this week's brutal drop, with oil falling over 30% at one point, but really drove the stock market down and a lot of the energy companies that are in the stock market, obviously. All right, so what's next? So my guess is that DC will wake up, okay, and the president should act more forcibly on this crisis. Now, a national state of emergency would help to cut a lot of the red tape to get funding for healthcare out to the states. Also, there's going to be some additional stimulus measures to help businesses and individuals get through this crisis. Remember, this is a healthcare crisis, and that's creating tremendous uncertainty with an energy crisis layered on top of it. It'll be a heavy lift to get the market narrative to stabilize. Okay, so there's 3 things I'm going to watch for. As I mentioned, the U.S. cases, I want to see these decline day over day. Now, this probably won't happen for at least another week. They're going to grow substantially at first. I'd also watch to see if China's cases go to 0. And this could definitely happen in the next week. They're down to just about 30 a day. And finally, I'd watch for a national state of emergency in the United States to help to help all the healthcare facilities deal with this crisis. If you get all three, you're going to really begin the process of changing the market narrative rapidly on the coronavirus. Okay, lots to digest here. I'm sorry I stumble around a little bit, but I want to get this out to you as fast as I could. I'm Andy Busch, and doing my best to help you move from chaos to confidence during a time of crisis. Again, all of my research is at andrewbusch.com.